right, I'm going to start recording in 3, 2, 1. All right. Hey, everyone. We have Zamboni Funk here with us. And we're about to get started. So just a few things. We have an hour. We'll be taking questions at the end. So if you have questions, pop them into the Q&A. And another thing is in the chat, feel free to, talk in the chat. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A. And make sure that in the chat you're addressed to all panelists and attendees. But with that, I'm gonna pass it over to Zamboni.
Cool. Well, thank you all so much for having me here. I really appreciate it. This is very exciting, and this is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. So I'm very excited to present on this here. So let me just get together my little program here, and we are going to, here we go. And now, all right. So then, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to talk today about difficult transits. I'm going to talk about lots of difficult transits and the things that we can do to help them. So remediation is sort of, it's about generating a remedy for whatever ails you. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm real excited. Let's go ahead and jump on in the thing here. So, it's likely that you're probably gonna have questions. And so by the end, we will do questions. I do not trust myself to monitor the chat while I'm trying to talk. And so we'll just do the questions at the end. So then, let's check it out. How do we get Saturn to stop being so damn mean? So then, let's check it out here. So everyone knows that the very best part about being an astrologer is looking forward in time and seeing a rough transit that's coming up and panicking. This is the very best thing. It's so much fun. Everybody does it. It is all of us, all the cool kids are doing it. And everyone who sort of like gets an idea for what astrology is and how astrology works can then look at their own chart and be like, oh no, this is terrible. We can see some terrible things coming up. And so this is super common and we all do it. And astrology, by and large, tends to be very good at diagnosing things. Astrology is very good for showing you what is going on. It's very good for showing you how you are as a person and what kinds of things like talents you have or challenges and difficulties. It's also very good on a transit level for showing you sort of like what things are coming up in your life and what things are going to look like, how things are going to go, right? And so astrology in that way is very good magic for knowing what's going to happen. But stopping there just leaves you panicky sometimes when you see terrible things that are about to happen. And so this is a talk about how to deal with it. This is a talk about where we go next. So like I mentioned before, to remediate means to make a remedy, right? And so a remedy is, it is medicine or it is a solution for whatever your problem is. And so this is a talk about how to work with these kinds of transits. What we ultimately want is to get a better outcome than the most extreme negative outcomes that are possible. And we want to make bad things less likely, and we want to maybe bring some good things out of it. Maybe bring, you know, in the case of difficult transits, we're looking at challenges and difficulties and stuff. We're maybe looking for maybe getting a little more in the way of like lessons, or getting stronger. You know, like if you work out really hard at the gym, then that makes you stronger, right? And it's the difficulty that did make you stronger and built you up in the first place, right? And so we're looking for a little more of that sort of outcome, as well as maybe some less terrible stuff, to, you know, like things that the very worst things that can happen to you, it's about like, okay, maybe not that stuff, right? And so this, as a result of that, it's a little bit difficult to like measure the outcomes. When you have done this kind of magic, then it's like you're very, like, a lot of times your goal is nothing happens, right? Nothing changes. Everything just kind of like hangs out and does what it was already doing. Somebody mentioned I have Mars retrograde in the 7th house, so this is looking like, you know, remediation for that is like, my partnerships don't get fucked up, right? And so it's a little bit difficult to measure that kind of thing, like how fucked up would they have gotten if I didn't do the magic and stuff like that. But because some of the significations can be so wild and crazy, it really feels like it's worthwhile to do. And so so that's what I spend a lot of time doing, and it's what I counsel clients to do that as well. And this is very much like sort of part of my practice generally, which is to take a look at what the time is offering and sort of move in that direction. Whatever the time is already doing for us, rather than trying to fight that wave, it's very much about sort of, you know, like riding with it, doing whatever is appropriate to do in this moment, and getting an idea for what's appropriate to do in this moment by looking at the astrology, which gives us a map of the time, right? So then, so in general, rough-looking transits are going to look like Saturn and Mars transits. Saturn conjoins your moon, Saturn conjoins your ascendant, something like that. Or Mars, in the case of the 7th house example, you know, Mars on your descendant, for example. This is going to be kind of a lot of pressure, and it feels like a lot. And so Saturn and Mars are our traditional malefics. They're the ones who bring bad stuff and evil and difficulty and stuff like that. So evil is a lot. I don't really mean to, I'm not trying to make a moral judgment here. That is up to you. Feel however you want. A lot of times, you know, things that are, the way that I like to think about malefic is like, or as a bad doer, is that it's something that brings you stuff that you don't like very much. It brings you things that feel uncomfortable or difficult, or that you don't want for whatever reason. Sometimes getting things that you don't want can be good for you. Sometimes getting things that you do want, or experiencing pleasure or these kinds of things, sometimes that can be bad for you. So I'm not here to talk about what is good and what is bad. I'm here more to talk about what is comfortable and what we like. And so Saturn and Mars tend to bring things that are uncomfortable and that we don't like. Saturn tends to bring things, Saturn is excessively cold and dry. Saturn is old and grumpy and brittle. Saturn creaks a lot. Saturn, you know, we can think about Saturn. A lot of the times we see Saturn as being represented as being on crutches. You know, so Saturn is lame. Saturn has a rough time moving around in the world, moves super slowly, is grumpy, has had a rough go of things, right? Saturn's children are the kind of people who have had some kind of like rough go of things, you know, people who have been in and out of prison, for example, or people who are poverty stricken. And then, you know, we can sort of put those things together, like debtor's prison and stuff like that. Like these are Saturn people, right? And these are Saturn experiences. These are the kinds of things that Saturn does. Usually because Saturn moves so slowly, Saturn takes about 2.5 years to get through a sign. And because 2.5 years is a long time, we can really sort of see these things taking place over a long period of time, a lot of times. So we're not, so with Saturn, we're looking for more like phases rather than events. And everything sort of like further than Saturn, we're going to see that as well. We're going to see this with Uranus. We're going to see this with Neptune, with Pluto. I'm not going to talk too much about outer planets today, simply because there is a long tradition of working with Saturn and Mars and all the other traditional planets. There's a long tradition of how to do that. There are texts about how to do that. There have been some, this is information that has been cultivated for a long period of time. That doesn't mean that one should not attempt to work with Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. It just does mean that that is a little bit sketchier. And so, like, if we start doing that work now, then maybe in 1,000 or 2,000 years, they'll have texts like we have around Saturn and Mars and stuff. But in the meantime, it is more reliable to do the prayers which have been prayed to Saturn and Mars for a long period of time than it is to try to work with Pluto. And so that doesn't mean that this technique that I'm introducing here won't work with Pluto, but it's going to take some thinking. It's going to take some hemming and hawing. And so I'm going to introduce the basic technique around Saturn and Mars. And then you can sort of extrapolate from there a little bit further. So Saturn and Mars, so it's very much, so I mentioned some Saturn stuff. Saturn is cold, Saturn is grumpy, Saturn takes a long time, melancholic, depression, sadness, this kind of thing, right? Isolation, loneliness. Mars, on the other hand, Mars is going to be aggressive. Mars is going to be, I think of, the difference between Saturn and Mars challenges is being like, Saturn is going to be like chronic challenges and Mars is going to be more acute challenges. Saturn wants, it's like, like my shoulder just hurts. It's just kind of cold and it pops and it just doesn't want to move right. Mars is like, I fell down and I broke my shoulder. Like there's an acute event, there's a break. It's hot. Mars is excessively hot and dry. And so we're looking at things that happen quickly. We're looking at, Mars also moves much faster than Saturn does. And so we can see this kind of dynamic going on here. And so being comfortable and being familiar with the spheres of planets that we're looking at is going to be a big deal on how we treat it. So then, moving forward a little bit here. So it's really time to start thinking about some examples here and what we can do about it. So I'm going to tell a little story about a rough transit that I went through recently and the way that I treated it magically. And so what I did, so Saturn and Mars are tough. They're the ones that cause the trouble. And so I have my natal moon at 0 degrees of Aquarius. And so you may recall that earlier on this year, we had Saturn and Mars conjunction at 0 degrees of Aquarius. It was like 2 minutes away from my natal moon. Also, I have Cancer rising, and so the moon rules my ascendant. And so I saw this coming from a few months out, and because it happened in March, right? It happened in late March. And so, I noticed this in like November or something like that and was like, this might be a problem for me. So, so I was real worried, Saturn and Mars both, like a Saturn-Mars conjunction is just kind of like if I was, I write dailies, and so if I just wrote about a Saturn-Mars conjunction, like what Saturn-Mars conjunction like today, it would be like a rough day, things are, there's like push and pull, there's frustration, Mars wants to go and do stuff, Saturn is like, nah. And there's just like, there's like this kind of fighting situation. It feels like conflict, it feels like tension, it feels like no fun, right? But then to put that and direct it straight at the ruler of my ascendant and the moon is to be a little bit in my personal grill with all of the conflict and the difficulty and all that sort of stuff. And so so I got a little worried about that, as one does, right? I told you that this is the most fun part about being an astrologer, and so I participated in this game. It was a good time, and I had a little bit of time to panic here, like our soccer player. So so in this case, I was really concerned about the moon and the first house, because you know, this is both of these things want to signify body and vitality and wellness and these kinds of things. You know, when I think about the moon, I often think about like, are you eating properly? Are you sleeping properly? Are you drinking water? Are you doing drugs? Like, all these kinds of things have a lot to do with how you feel in your body and how you feel in your mind, right? Moods and all this kind of fluctuation and this sort of stuff. So and so there's you know, taking care of yourself, and then so Saturn coming up and then making it difficult to take care of yourself, making it difficult to sleep, making it difficult to eat, like all these kinds of things, while at the same time looking at Mars coming in and thinking about acute injury around the way that I take care of myself, or my vitality or my body in some way. And so that was like kind of the worry for me. And so this is the truly like fun and imaginative part. This is, you get to be a little bit fantastic in this part of like, what does this transit want from me? So in my case, I was thinking about you know, I was thinking about Saturn and Mars on the moon. And so I was like, okay, this wants to maybe generate a leg injury, right? Like Saturn is often shown with a bum leg, walking on crutches or something like that. Mars likes to break shit. Saturn refers to the bones. Mars likes to break shit. So, you know, I was like, that was kind of my like worst case scenario here, or maybe something about my health in general or my vitality. Maybe it was going to be something about, maybe I was going to get sick. You know, the Rona was happening at the same time. And so I was worried about fever as well. Mars is hot. And so I was like worried about these kinds of things. And so this is, in this part of the process, this is a really good time to sort of just imagine all of the things that are possible. All of, you know, we can run through all of our metaphors here and really just like think big and grandiose thoughts about all the things that are possible here. And, you know, I mentioned that this is the fun part, and really like you can have fun here. This, like, you can, like, let your fantasy go, let your imagination go. Sometimes it's like fun to think about all the wild shit that might happen. And if you are like a working astrologer, then maybe you've seen some things happen to clients. Maybe you've heard some stories. Maybe you heard about somebody else's Saturn on the moon, or maybe you heard about somebody else getting Mars on their ascendant and what sort of things were happening to them at that time. And maybe you've got some stories, right? So you've got some stories from that, not just sort of doing like our astrologer Mad Lib thing where we're like, okay, Mars is hot, and then we put it in the body. So maybe it's a fever or a burn or something like that, right? Not just that sort of stuff, but like what has actually happened to people. And so this part is just like, think about it. Just, we don't have to do anything at this point. We just want to think about what is possible in the universe, what is on offer here. And so many times Saturn is going to offer some rough stuff, and Mars is going to offer something more like acute and immediate. And then think about what planet it's going to be. Like, is it the ruler of your ascendant? Is it the ruler of your descendant? Is it Venus? Is it Jupiter? Like, what's going to happen? What are, you know, like, so I got to think about the moon a little bit, but the moon, you know, so that was what I did. And that was the ruler of my ascendant, and it was the moon. And so I had body thoughts in my head, right? But what if it was the sun? Then maybe in that case, I might think about like, okay, so it's possible that eyes might be a problem here. Or it's maybe possible that my sense of self or my confidence might waver or falter, or it, you know, that's Saturn on the sun, right? What about Mars on the sun? Then maybe Mars on the sun is going to be like a little too much fire, right? Maybe Mars on the sun is going to be it's going to be a little aggressive. It's going to make, maybe it's going to put me into an aggressive place. Maybe I'm going to be in a place where I'm irritated or aggravated and want to start a fight. You know, like, so we can think about each of the planets and that we have, and what sort of stuff might be happening here. If you like, if you have Mercury, and Mercury is the ruler of your ascendant, let's say you have Virgo rising, And Mars is going to come through and is going to conjoin your Mercury, and it's also going to conjoin the ruler of your rising, because Mercury is the ruler of your rising. So then, you know, we might see some body and some vitality and that sort of stuff, but it might come through in a more mercurial way rather than the moon, which is like, am I eating? Am I drinking water? Am I sleeping? Like I'm having trouble sleeping because Saturn is on the moon. Maybe you know, Saturn or Mars conjoining your Mercury is going to be something that's going to be a little bit, you know, maybe your words are going to be affected. Maybe your mind and the way that your mind works and the way that you express yourself is going to be, you know, affected. Maybe you're going to run into some trouble while traveling. Maybe you get injured while traveling, right? Like all sorts of stuff. Maybe you only have sad things to say when Saturn conjoins your Mercury. There's just, all I'm doing now is just saying sad stuff, and that's what it is, and I'm just sad, right? This is possible. We can do this with all, you know, with all the planets that are working in your chart. Then we can look at, well, what does this planet do? And how does this planet operate in my life? And then what does a Saturnian or a Martian influence look like on that? And how does that feel? And what kind of things does that want to, like, what kind of things does that want to bring out in me? So then that moves us on to step 2. Thank you everybody for looking at the wrong slide for a long time. These, I don't know why it's going super slow, and so I'm trying to hit it before I really need to be there, and my timing is a little off here, but thank you for bearing with me. So, so now step 2 is to try to trigger the event, right? So we already have an idea of what the thing wants to do in the first place, right? Saturn on the moon, Saturn-Mars conjunction on my natal moon wants to break my legs, right? And so it's like, okay, cool. Now, how can we trigger this event in some kind of way that is not breaking my legs, because I don't want my legs to be broken, right? That would be our worst case scenario, and I don't want that. So what do we do instead? What can we do? Like, how can we put this into a place in our lives which is convenient and helpful and is the right place for it? So, you know, so Saturn wants to slow things down. Saturn wants to negate things. Saturn wants you to move slowly because you only have one leg, perhaps. You know, Saturn is very much like, just think about the kinds of things that Saturn wants. And so what I did was I chose to, so I saw that this whole situation was going to come up and I was worried about it. And so I decided that I was going to stop doing some stuff that I think is fun, because Saturn likes it when you do the responsible thing. Saturn likes it when you say no to stuff. And Saturn likes it when you do the thing that is less fun than you would have done otherwise. And so because I know that Saturn likes this already, then I decided, okay, Saturn, you win. I'm gonna stop smoking for 6 months. So, so there's a couple of things that are important here. First is that stopping smoking is something that I like. I like smoking, and I wanted to smoke, and I decided to say no to that because Saturn likes it when you say no. Saturn has been into negation, right? The other thing that's important here is that I gave it some time. I gave it a Saturnian time scale. So this is the kind of thing that, you know, like if I was like, okay, Saturn, I'm not going to smoke tomorrow, then Saturn is wholly unimpressed with this. That is nothing on a Saturnian timescale. That is less than a blink of an eye. I don't care. Shut up. I'm going to break your legs anyway, right? Saturn is typically sort of unforgiving about these kinds of things. And so it's very important to be like, okay, well, Saturn wants it to go slow. So I have to be ready to go slow in this situation. I have to be ready to move slowly and just do the thing at the Saturnian level. And so, so I knew that this conjunction was going to happen in late March, right? And so I wanted to give this plenty of time. And so when the new year came, so in January, in early January, I stopped smoking, and I promised Saturn that I would stop smoking. And so I gave it 3 months up until the exact conjunction. And then there was, so what happened, you may recall, is that Saturn moved forward into Aquarius and made it to almost 2 degrees of Aquarius, turned around, came back and conjoined my moon at 0 again, and then moved back into Capricorn. And so during that whole period, until Saturn was back into Capricorn, then, so, which was also very neat, Saturn was back in Capricorn on July 1st, so that was a clear and easy 6 months. So when that happened, then my promise was up. That's as much as I promised. And so, you know, Saturn is really into promises kept. And so it's a, you know, for this remediation, I didn't say necessarily that I'm going to stop smoking forever, because I didn't necessarily want to, because I don't necessarily want to. I like smoking. I might want to do that again. But, you know, for this period during which time the transit is active, then this was like my main thing. I really, you know, I didn't smoke at all. And I was in plenty of situations where people were like offering me smokes, or I was around a bunch of it and it was just like, it was available. And I had to, during that time, I had to tell a lot of people no. And so I was really engaging with Saturn at that time. So what I was doing was I was triggering Saturn. Saturn wanted to happen and wanted to happen strongly in my life. And so I gave it a place to go. I said, okay, Saturn, you want to be strong in my life? Great. So what I need you to do is I need you to tell all these people no. Everybody who comes up here and wants me to smoke with them, I'm not going to do it. And I need you to tell them no. And so I put Saturn on the job. Saturn was ready to be strong. And so I put Saturn on a job. I told Saturn where to go, and Saturn went there. Now, it was still a Saturn on the moon transit, and so I still experienced Saturn moon things, you know, and we can talk a little bit about what that sort of stuff was. You know, I sort of, you know, like I learned to fast during that time, which wasn't, you know, like I learned to fast for my health, which is like a whole thing that you can like YouTube or whatever. But the idea with fasting is you stop eating, right? And you stop eating for a certain period of time. And so, and that was not planned. Saturn came and conjoined my moon, and I was like, what would happen if I just didn't eat for 3 days? And so, so it worked out in that way. And so I got that sort of stuff. I also was like pretty weepy, and, you know, like Saturn things were happening. But I still got 2 legs. So I'm real happy with that sort of thing. And, you know, that kind of brings me to fasting. And I think that fasting is super great, especially for Saturn transits. Saturn is bland, Saturn is thin, Saturn doesn't want to eat rich, delicious things. And so, and Saturn likes you to be sort of like grumpy and hangry and stuff like that. And so that's a really good way to sort of like give Saturn some. And so that was another thing that I took up while I was like during the 6-month period, is I would fast on Saturdays. So like during the daytime from on Saturdays from sun up to sun down, then I wouldn't eat any food. It was just water during that time. And I'm actually still doing that. So I'm fasted right now, but it's very much, you know, it's so in line with Saturn that if you're looking to get some favors from Saturn, or you're looking to maybe get a bit of respectability in Saturn's eyes, then doing something like a fast can be a really good look. And that can be something that you can time to the moment of your thing as well, the moment of your transit. So that's Saturn, right? And so then, but it was going to be Mars as well. So I had to do Mars stuff as well. And so I was like, all right, so Mars wants to cut, or Mars wants to burn, or Mars wants to break. So like, what am I going to do in order to give this a good place to go? So what I decided to do at that time was like, okay, Mars wants to cut my body. So on the day that that Mars wants to cut my body, I cut my hair. And so in that moment, I just, you know, I was like, okay, Mars, this is for you. I see that you want to cut me. And so here I am giving you the cut that you like. This is for you, oh Mars. And so, you know, this is this is another way to sort of think about like, okay, Mars wants to happen to me. And so how can I make this happen? Let's maybe think about some other examples here though. So like, let's do Mercury again. So Mars wants to conjoin your Mercury. Then, you know, so Mars on your Mercury might be, and you know, that wants to be angry words. It wants to be a fight. You're going to be like fighting with the people. Like think about what house this is in also. Like, is this in your third house? Are you fighting with your sibling? Is it in your seventh house? Are you fighting with your spouse? Like, you know, like this kind of stuff, right? So think about this kind of thing. And then, so what Mars on Mercury wants some angry words, wants some like volatile communication to come out. So I wonder if you might be able to trigger that by maybe doing a primal scream or something like that, letting your rage come through and come through your voice. But maybe like giving that a place to go and being like, okay, I'm just going to scream for a minute. And then Mars will have had a place to go. Remember that something acute is the way that Mars typically operates. And so you don't need to scream continuously for 6 months the way that like you need to maybe not smoke continuously for 6 months or whatever you choose, right? Because Mars and Saturn don't operate on that same time scale. But it does need to happen, and it needs to happen sort of like in an opportune moment. And so that's really that's
Zamboni, feel free to mention the Mars remediation that I was going to do that
oh
I
cool,
didn't
yeah,
end up
yeah.
doing.
Word, yeah, great. So it was such a good idea. I loved it so much. So Shakira for a while was talking about having Mars on the moon, and so she was talking about she was going to pierce her nipples for that transit, and I just thought that was such an amazing idea, with the moon being associated with breasts, and then Mars being associated with sharp things. It is just like prime time right here. This is a really great example, and it's a really great way to sort of bring your metaphors together, right? So Mars wants to happen to my moon. My moon wants to happen is my body. Maybe my moon is my titties, and then I'm gonna put some holes in them with a sharp object, because that's the sort of shit that Mars likes. And so doing that as a way to maybe stop yourself from maybe getting a burn, or you know, doing the kinds of things that Mars likes to do to the moon, right? Mars and the moon don't get along very often, and so giving that somewhere to go is like this is a great example. And it's like ingenious to me, you know, like putting the parts of the body together. And then but then also the thing here is that this is desirable. This is an elective procedure, right? This is something that I want to happen because I want pierced nipples. And so this is going in a direction that Mars wants to go, and it's going in a direction that I want to go in. And so this is the way to get back to remediation, right? We want good things rather than whack things. We want, you know, stuff not only to be less terrible than is possible, but we want some good outcomes as well. And so like something like a nipple piercing is like, now I have this nipple piercing that I want, and Mars got to put a hole in my body as well. And so so we're looking at some good stuff here.
Also just giving you a 30, yeah, about like 25-minute warning.
25 minutes left, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks. And thanks for being the example there. That's a good one. That's a real good one. So so now it's about timing. So we've got an idea of what it is that we're going to do, right? And so now we should time it properly. You know, so the electional procedure here is super easy. This is not Picatrix magic. You don't need to worry about like the rising sign or like bonus points for all this stuff, like all of the, like making sure that the Lord of the Ascendant is in Caden, and that the moon is in Caden, and that they make an aspect to each other, and like all the sort of electional rules that that you're sort of familiar with when it comes to magical practice. Like you don't really need all that. You need the planetary hour. Ideally, the day and hour is good for Saturn, because Saturn is because I like gave it so much lead time. Then I could just choose you know, Saturday while You know, I could choose a Saturday while the sun was rising. The sun was even in Capricorn at that time. It was the new year. And so I had Capricorn rising and I had Saturday at sunrise. That is going to be your planetary day and planetary hour. Planetary hour is kind of a deep, intensive concept. I don't have time to really talk about all that right now. It's Googleable. Each of the planets, each of the 7 traditional planets rules a day. The first hour of that day is going to be the hour of that planet, and then it'll cycle as well. So you want the day, you want the hour. If you can't get the day and all you get is the hour, like, fine, that's fine. And then the other part of the election is that you want it to be around your transit, right? So, you know, if you're 3 months away and you choose Tuesday morning to do your haircut or your nipple piercing, then like, you know, that is, you're still 3 months out and you haven't done the thing, right? So you want to get as close as possible. You want the hour. And so this is Mars specifically, right? Because Mars is moving pretty quick most times, unless it's like a retrograde situation, in which case maybe it's going to take, you know, something a little more involved. Maybe you're going to get 3 passes or something like that. And so you can sort of like play with this for a little bit. But like, if you're going to be doing one ritual for Mars, then you're going to want to wait until the transit is about to happen. And then when that happens, then you want the planetary hour, and that should do it. You can bonus points for all the rest of the stuff, but it's not really such a big deal. This is not making a talisman. This is not, and it's not even as much as like a petition or something like that. It's like pretty simple. Choose the thing, do the thing on time. And then, so step 4 is the actual performance of the ritual. So I sort of alluded to this a little bit already. This is an actual photo of me on the day of my Mars to the Moon transit. It was glorious, as you can tell. So when you perform, performance is important. It's a big deal in this style of magic. So make sure that you look Marsy or Saturnian in some kind of way. You know, this can be colors. Colors are really good and easy to do. If you're doing a Mars thing, dress yourself in red. If you're doing a Saturn thing, dress yourself in black. You know, it's pretty simple, that sort of way. Think about the kinds of things that Saturn likes. Think about the sort of things that Mars likes. Saturn likes you to be respectable. Saturn likes you to be old, if possible. Saturn likes you to be Jewish, if possible, also. This is a thing. I don't know. I don't necessarily endorse cosplaying like a Jew, but like, it's in the text, so like, whatever. But cosplaying, so what I did with for my Saturn ritual was I had recently buried my grandfather. He died like 3 weeks before that. And so I had a funeral outfit that I wore to his funeral. And so I put that same outfit on. And so it was my death going outfit. And so Saturn, being the goat god of death, was into that, I imagine. You know, so what you're going to do is you are going to, at the appointed time, you've got your thing on, you're carrying a sword for Mars or something like that, a blade, perhaps, maybe there's some scissors like I had that day. And you're going to burn some incense. So incense is fairly easy to find in planetary varieties. If you go to like occult craft stores or online occult stores and stuff like that, they'll have you know, incenses dedicated to planets. That works fine. You can also look up recipes and do it yourself. You can also, like, a nice one is frankincense. Like if you don't want to get super deep with it, but you want to burn something, then frankincense will do the job. Frankincense isn't going to offend anybody. You know, sometimes burning Saturn incense when you're trying to do moon work, like, that'll offend the moon. Everyone is pretty like copacetic when it comes to frankincense. So frankincense is a pretty good look most of the time. Then you've got some smoke burning and you're like dressed up, and you'll want to say a prayer here as well. And so there are a lot of pre-written prayers. I typically like the hygromantia prayers. just because I like them. They have Berber's names. I'm into them. Some folks don't like them as much. There's like a Catholic thing that goes on with them that some folks aren't really into. The Orphic hymns are a classic go-to. That one's especially good for Mars. The Mars Orphic hymn is, it spends the first half being like, Mars, you're such a badass and you're bloodthirsty. Please don't do bloodthirsty badass things to me. Why don't we maybe make plows for the field instead? So it's a pretty good one to go for when you want Mars to like stop cutting things and burning things in your life. That the Orphic hymn to Aries is a good look here. Then I would also add a personal address at the end of it after you've done the pre-written prayer. Then say, Saturn, be nice to me, or Saturn, don't be a dick. That's going to be basically what you do. I am into suffumigation. I think that it's a really good concept. And so with the Mars thing, I had scissors to cut my hair with. And so I was like praying and like doing all the Mars stuff, and Mars incense is burning, I'm in my red and everything. And so during my personal address, I told Mars that I was going to cut my hair and as a gift for him. And so I was just like sort of turning the scissors in the smoke of the Mars incense, and sort of like talking about how this was going to be for Mars, and Mars, this is for you, and here we go, we're going to do a cut, and are you ready? And then started chopping. And then did the whole thing during the hour of Mars. Didn't let the hour change. So, and that's how you do it. It's like pretty simple. There's not really a lot to it. The actual ritual itself is just doing the thing, whatever it is. For Saturn, I just promised not to smoke anymore during this time period. I was very clear about my time period, but I just, said, Saturn, this is for you. Here's what I'm gonna do. And I'm not gonna do this smoking anymore for you, oh boy. So that's what we did, and by we I mean me. That's what I did. Saturn was there too, I guess. So yeah, that's how it went. And so I don't have broken legs. It's wonderful. My legs, both legs, still work. It is excellent. I really like it. It is, like I said at the very beginning, it's difficult to know that things worked. It's difficult to know how it would have gone had I not done this ritual, but I do know that during the time that I was saying no to smoking, I was really like strongly feeling the Saturnian presence. I was really engaging with the Saturnian field and really feeling what it's like to be Saturn, to embody Saturn, and to live with Saturn. And I feel like that is kind of the essence of what a major transit is. A lot of times you really get to know the presence of this planet in your life. And often that is uncomfortable and annoying and shitty. And so that's rough. But in doing this kind of thing, and especially with Saturn, because it's such a long period of time, then just like feeling it and living it, I think is really helpful, and teaches you about Saturn stuff, which is what a Saturn transit ultimately wants you to do, right? So yeah, I think it's a pretty effective process. I used it. I still have 2 functional legs, and my goal was nothing happens, and more or less that's kind of what went down. I didn't notice the Mars thing at all. I didn't notice Mars on the moon at all. It was just a thing. Oh, the other thing about it also is this was happening in my 8th house, and so I was a little worried about like taxes and the tax man, so I just made sure that the tax man was paid up. This was going to be happening in March. Taxes are not due in my country until April. Then this year, because of the Rona, they weren't due until July. I didn't mess with none of that. My taxes was paid in January because I didn't need that bullshit, because I saw Saturn and Mars coming, and I was like, not today. So that's just like something to think about as well. Think about your house, right? What house are you in?
Zamboni.
So, yes.
We have about 15 minutes left, just so you know, and we have quite a bit of questions too. Just
okay, cool.
You know.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so we have some further applications that are possible here. It's very so this is a field that is difficult to work with a little bit. So but it's fun to think about. So so what if you want to get something really like excellent out of a transit? What if you have a Jupiter transit that you want to come up and that you want to be great? And then like, what can you do about that? You know, so this is very interesting. And so what I would try to do in that moment is to do the opposite of this technique, which is to not trigger it, to not let Jupiter things happen during this Jupiter transit so that Jupiter has to find another way to get to you. You know, if you're looking at Jupiter is going to be on your ascendant or something like that, then not doing Jupiter things so that Jupiter has to find you in a super lucky moment can be something to think about. But I just don't have time to talk about all that right now. So because I do want to get to your questions. So it is that time. How do I get to the questions from here?
I will read them for you.
Okay, cool, thank you.
All right. So some of them, there's 17. Some of them I'm not gonna pose because that may not be that great. As a very Martian person with a Sun-Mars conjunction, just like me, they wrote that. Also quintuple Scorpio, lots of Scorpio placements, including Mars. I'm curious about Mars as a traditional malefic. How does this shift or change for people with major Mars influence in the chart? Are there any special advantages or disadvantages to this?
Sure, yeah. So with Mars, so this is a real interesting one because like it's like, so you already have a lot of Mars, and not only do you have a lot of Mars, but it's really strong and dignified as well, right? This is Mars ruling everybody in Scorpio, like at home and comfortable. So so on the one hand, this is helpful for somebody who has a lot of like Scorpio stuff going on. If you already have a lot of Mars, then when Mars shows up in your life, then you know what to do with it already. This maybe doesn't require as much remediation as somebody who doesn't know what to do with Mars, who maybe has a Mars in Cancer in the 12th or something like that, right? So this is going to be Mars that is debilitated, that you like can't really get to in your life, right? Whereas somebody who has Mars in Scorpio ruling everything, then this is going to be a super strong Mars kind of situation. And so you're probably going to have to do less as far as remediating Mars. You know, when Mars comes through and swoops through all that stuff, it's probably going to be intense and serious, and that's going to be a Mars return. So it's going to be a lot to do during that time. But it's probably going to be a little bit less volatile because even all those planets in Scorpio already know what to do with Mars in Scorpio. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But maybe just because I have Mars in Scorpio. So another question is, it's okay. Which transits are the most significant and why? Should we only focus on conjunctions? Are oppositions equally important? Squares, trines, etc.?
Yeah, so I would look at hard aspects. Conjunctions are the most obvious. Of course, a conjunction matters, right? Then we look at oppositions and squares. Those tend to be a little bit strong as well. And so I would take a look at those, you know, and then, you know, at that point, then we start having to look at like rulerships and there's like more stuff going on. But like trines and sextiles, I wouldn't really mess with them. I would do hard aspects only for this kind of remediation. I'm not really worried about a trine from Mars, you know, like that might even be cute.
Like what we're moving through this weekend with the Sun and Mercury moving to trine Mars.
Totally,
I'm into
right.
it.
I look at that as being very powerful for the Sun, right? The Sun is going to be
Yeah.
super empowered by a trine to Mars.
Especially as its exaltation lord and the Sun in domicile. We had some
Fire,
nice
fire, 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 fire.
yeah.
Mhm.
Another question from Chris. How would this process be the same or different if it's Saturn or Mars going over an outer planet or moving through a house with no planets in it?
Yeah, sure. So, so outer planets, I wouldn't really touch them that much. If it's like if Mars is going over your Pluto or something, that is likely to be emotional, and you're gonna feel that. Like, you know, during that time, you know, you can do the same ritual. You can do the, like, Mars is exactly conjunct my Pluto, and so I'm going to think through what Mars on Pluto wants to do, and I'm going to trigger that in some way, and I'm going to tell Mars that the trigger is for him. So you can still totally do that, run it down the same way. As far as, like, you know, a planet in a house that doesn't have anything, but it's like it's your second house, and you don't want Saturn to like fuck all your money up or something like that. That's a little, you know, you don't have a day to work with. You don't have, like, your electional ritual is going to be a little bit difficult. So then what you're going to have to do if you want to really remediate that is you're going to just have to do it the whole time the planet is in that house. You know, you're going to have to make a regular practice out of like doing your prayers, and, you know, like now we're looking at prayers, fasting, offerings, like these kinds of things, you know.
Awesome, thank you. Another question is, can we use these similar ideas to remediate a difficult solar or lunar return? And I don't know about return, but I'm thinking transit, even like maybe not just even a difficult, well, I guess that's the question, right? Like, can you use these similar remediation tactics for remediating a difficult solar return or lunar return? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so this is kind of the same situation where, like, a solar return, this is said to speak to the whole year following that. And so if you want to remediate that, I would definitely do it during the solar return. Like on your birthday, I would do the ritual and make sure that you know, like your metaphors are on point. But then if you really want to, like, make sure that it lasts the whole year, you might this might be another, like, I have to pray every day to Mars for 365, which might get old, you know what I mean? But it could be done.
Awesome. A couple quick questions. Someone wanted to know what house Saturn was moving through when you quit smoking.
Oh, sure. Well, so that would, I was worried about Saturn on the moon, and so that would have been in the 8th. I use whole sign houses, and so 0 degrees is the cusp, and so when I actually made the promise, that would have been Saturn in the 7th.
Awesome. And someone was wondering about the Saturn's association with Jewish people,
Sure.
and basically like where that comes from.
Yeah. Well, so Jewish people, their holy day is Saturday. And I think a lot of it comes from that. Also, you know, there's kind of the whole, like, slaves in Egypt, and you know, people who have consistently had a rough go of things.
Yeah, and even like you can think of, excuse me, Friday being like a holiday in Islam, right? And the association with Venus.
I'm out of my league here.
Okay. And that just makes me think of like Sunday with the sun, and like the association with the sun and Christ with
Yeah,
a
Sun
lot
and
of.
Venus are very obvious figures, right? And so, you know, we can do this, like, with all of them, but yeah, but
Yeah,
specifically in the Picatrix, they tell you to dress up like a Jew if you
yeah,
talk to Saturn. Um,
yeah. There's this like Saturn day, Sabbath, the Sabbath, Saturn,
mhm,
and yeah, the association with dressing in all black.
mhm.
Um, okay, so a lot of people ask about Pluto, and I
Yeah.
don't know if you want to go there, but there's questions about why you wouldn't apply this concept to Pluto. Like, is Pluto considered a malefic? Wouldn't this
Mhm.
work with Pluto transits?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So Pluto, I would consider Pluto malefic. This is idiosyncratic. The term malefic refers to Saturn and Mars specifically. I consider Pluto a malefic just because typically when Pluto conjuncts your thing, then it's not fun. You don't enjoy that. It tends to be like obsessive and crazy and transformative, but like in a composty and rotten and smelly kind of way. So I would consider Pluto a malefic. Trying to remediate a Pluto transit via this method is, so first, Pluto moves very slowly, and so you're looking at a long period of doing some stuff. So, like, get ready to pray a lot. And then the second thing is, what prayers do we use? Like we don't really have prayers to Pluto like that. And it's just a little, like the whole thing is a little touchy and difficult. So I'm not saying don't do it. And the concept is still good, right? Think about what it means for Pluto to conjoin your moon, or your sun, or whatever it is that Pluto wants to conjoin, or whatever. I probably would just use conjunctions on that one, rather than squares and oppositions, just because it's just like it's a lot of time and a lot of space, to be trying to like look out for. But like, so what does that want to do in your life, the Pluto conjunct your sun or whatever? And then, try to trigger that thing, and be ready to try to trigger that thing for like, 6 years at a time or something, like Pluto takes a really long time to do stuff. You might get a Pluto conjunction 5 times or something like that. So I think that this method is good, but this is a road far less traveled as far as Uranus, Neptune, Pluto is concerned. So try it and let me know what happens.
Yeah, I have the belief that you really can't remediate outer planet transits. That's just my thing. I feel like you just kind of have to surrender to them to a certain degree.
That's much their style.
Yeah.
I haven't actually tried it, and so I hesitate to say that it can't be done.
Yeah, I guess you're right about that. What about a conjunction? Okay, so there's a couple people who want to know about what to do about specific Mars transits. One's asking about conjunction to natal Saturn in Aries in the 12th. One's asking about Mars retrograding over their ascendant. Yeah, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. So think about what these placements are doing in your chart and what they're doing in your life. What does Saturn and Aries in the 12th mean to you? Or what is your ascendant in Aries, presumably, mean for yourself and where your sense of self and like what do you do that is like that your ascendant or your Saturn in the 12th, like how does that operate? And then think about how Mars can irritate that. Think about how Mars might want to burn or heat that up, or spark something, or bring some conflict or irritation or inflammation. In the 12th house, we're looking at, like this has potential for hospitals or mental illness or something like that. A lot of times when I see stuff going on in the 12th, then my way to trigger that is via like meditation practice. The 12th house is where you go to sit and think about what you've done, right? And so if you sit quietly in a corner and think about what you've done, then you can sort of trigger that sort of stuff. Saturn in Aries is not trying to have time out like that. And so, and Mars is really going to aggravate that and want to make that explode, right? And so dig into that. Like how is this working? Like what does this really mean for you? And think about what that is and then try and trigger it. It's just do, the program, follow the program.
Awesome. And then I think we have time for one more. Which one do I pick? Okay, I'm gonna see if you can answer one of these quickly, but one of them is, do you approach remediation for natal placements the same way as you do for transits? And then another one is, how would you apply this to eclipses?
Ooh.
I know, you can choose which one to
Right, sure. Okay. So, well, my eclipses will probably be quick because my general advice for remediating eclipses is hide from them. Your arms are too short to box with dragons. Don't try. You got to ride that wave where it takes you. And so there are ways to remediate eclipses. Like in the Indian Vedic traditions, there are mantras that you can do to the south node and the north node and stuff. That's not my style, and so I can't really speak to it. I know people who do that, and they say they like it. So maybe try to do that, and maybe pray and hide. Like I think that hiding from eclipses is like really the fucking wave. So the other question was, what was it? What was the other question?
Do you approach remediating natal placements in the same way?
Right, natal placements. Yeah, so yes and no. So it's going to be less electional, and more, because it's not going to be like, it might get triggered by like the moon going over that thing or something like that. But really, this is going to be sort of an ongoing situation. Like if you have Mars and the moon together in your chart, then you're not going to escape Mars moon dynamics, right? And so give that a place to go for sure. Find a good way to trigger that. But then you're going to want to make that into a lifestyle, right? If Mars on your moon is getting in your way in some way, maybe it's cutting you, or maybe it's you're prone to bruises or injury or something like that, then the way to put Mars in there is to be like, okay, so I'm just going to go to the gym a lot and be super careful so that I don't hurt myself or whatever, but I'm going to sweat it out. I'm going to maybe go to the sauna or something like that, right? And I'm going to make this into a lifestyle so that Mars moon dynamics are consistent and happen a lot for me, because the moon Mars thing is not going to go away, but the triggering element is totally something that you can do.
Awesome. Thank you so much. With that, I'm going to ask you to kind of like quickly let us know where people can learn more about you and your practice.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks so much, everybody, for being here. Thank you for hosting and all this. This is lovely. I'm so happy and excited to be here. So my name is Zamboni Funk. You can find me on Instagram, where I do dailies and I do weekly forecasts as well. And it's Zamboni Funk, at Zamboni Funk is where you can find me. I also am on Patreon. And so Patreon is, there we go. So Patreon is where I do a lot of the sort of like practical enchantment stuff. It's where I talk about practical enchantment and how to use astrology for your own benefit and how to do things with it. I found out a long time ago that astrology was good magic for knowing things by, but I still wanted to do stuff. And so my practice is very much about getting in there and doing stuff, but using astrological principles and doing stuff on time. So yeah, find me on Patreon, where we do a lot of, I do Astro Basics course there, and I also have a regular practical enchantment situation where we do group stuff regularly. It's fun. It's a nice place to be for enchanting your way through the apocalypse,
Hell yeah. Awesome. Please check that out. Thank you so much.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you all so much for having me. I appreciate it so much.
All right. So everyone, you can, we'll be back here in an hour, basically 1 p.m. Pacific. And it's the same link, or you can watch the live stream. And for all the other Q&As, Zamboni, I'm going to send you the screenshot of all these questions.
Sure.
Would you be down to answer some on your Instagram stories?
Yeah, I'll check it out. I'll see what's going on.
Cool. All right, cool. So yeah, make sure to check out Zamboni's Instagram if you, might get one of your questions answered. All right, everyone. See you.
Bye. Uh-oh, we lost Shakira. Okay, well, thanks everybody. See you soon. You're muted, Zach.
Thank you, everyone. We're good.
Cool.